Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into a new edition of the Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. Got Danny Boy Reginald. We got the old apps guy. I am Mike Rifkin. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you?
Doing fine. Been a nice week with the kids out at the pool. Now just watching the tropics.
Yes. The Hurricane's gonna miss us, so that's
Yeah.
we may get what the remnants, maybe part of it, nothing crazy, but yeah,
Shout out the Scorpions. Rock you like a hurricane. Great track.
yeah. Um,
But yes, thankfully, the hurricane looks like it is going to miss. Shout out Noah Tremblay for that news telling us
yeah, and then
meteorology.
obviously to those in the Caribbean, which it hit Category 4, we're thinking of y'all, but just thank goodness that it's not going to be anything serious. Obviously, the hurricane season's not done yet, so
Yeah.
it can happen, but
They're
Yes.
all lined up like the ILS runway coming into New York.
So everyone out there who could get affected, stay safe.
yeah.
We are going to talk a lot of baseball this morning. And guys, we are coming down to the last month of the season, basically.
Yeah.
It feels like it flies by. All right. So we do have some news, and then I'm going to throw it over to the old apps guy because he had the idea for the bulk of today's show. But I do want to start with the hottest team in baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers, who have won now a franchise record 14 consecutive games.
They're going to 20. They're going to 20.
Well, here's the thing that they get one more with the Reds today, which as a Met fan, you need the Brewers to win.
Yes.
But then they start a huge 5-game series starting tomorrow in Chicago against the Cubs.
The Cubs have been a little bit shaky over the last few days, but I think it'll be still a stellar matchup.
Yeah, I mean, we got a close eye last week at the Brewers, Mark, and there's nothing they do. Let me phrase it better. They do everything the right way. They don't have a ton of slug, but they got guys who can hit the ball to the ballpark. They play defense. Everybody runs, and then their pitching is fabulous.
Yeah. And then, the grit to being successful. The fact that they continue to stay in games when they have no business staying in the game is incredibly impressive with this young squad. And if you look at the makeup of this franchise right now, it's they have no business at all winning 14 straight games. But yet here we are, and they've looked great in the process. Pitching's been great. Hitting's been great. Like everything all around has been nothing but just fantastic.
They were down 8-1 on Friday night to the Reds, and they come back and find a way to win.
Yeah.
Last night,
Yeah.
they couldn't buy a hit with a runner in scoring position. They find a way to tie the game up in the ninth inning, and then they eventually win it on a 3-run homer. They just find ways.
And again, one thing you have to understand is who that team was put together by.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Stearns Council.
Well, well. I mean, I want to disagree. A lot of the people that have been there is post Stearns. and this is not to, I get what you're trying to do here. You're trying to give yourselves a little more credit for your team, but I disagree. This is post Stearns. A lot of it's post Stearns.
But the thing
The foundation, yes, is Stearns, but a lot of the moves have been post Stearns. So kudos
but if
to
you
the current
but
front
if you
office.
think of how they're built, just and think of how they promoted just from within. When Stearns leaves, it's Matt Arnold who is his right hand man.
Right.
Craig Counsell leaves for Chicago. They don't go out of their way to hire another manager. They just promote Pat Murphy, who, by the way,
It's
if
done a
he's
brilliant
not the
job.
National League Manager of the Year again this year, we're gonna have a real problem. Like that
He,
is signed, sealed, delivered.
Here's the thing. I really think that should go to the manager he's facing right now, which is Terry Francona,
Mm.
because the Cincinnati Reds, what they're doing, I'm sorry to the Brewers, but what he's doing with the Cincinnati Reds is absolutely tremendous. Like you can't. I'm sorry. Like
Listen, if the argument is Murphy and Terry Francona, look, I love Terry Francona, but
yeah,
man, Pat Murphy he's crushed it again. And this is a team that has done it with like that next man up mentality. You know, Jackson Churio, that young superstar center fielder, he goes down. Reese Hoskins has gone down. By the way, the guy who stayed relatively healthy most of the year is Christian Yelich. And he's had a phenomenal year as well. But man, the Brewers have won 14 straight. They look for 15 today in Cincinnati. The other big storyline that took place was announced last night. Phillies ace Zach Wheeler is going to go on the injured list. They found a blood clot near his shoulder. So, Mark, you said you looked more into this.
yeah. For all of you who do not know biology of the arm, the brachial artery is the main artery that leads from the hand all the way up into the shoulder and into the major bloodline. That's where the blood clot was found. That is where most blood clots in arms are found from pitchers, and it has happened numerous times. The good thing is for Zach Wheeler, they've caught it early and fast, and it can be treated. However, his regular season is over.
yeah.
The Phillies will not admit that right now. They just put him on the IL. His regular season is over, not the playoff season. The Phillies have to now keep pace. I don't know Aaron Nola's exact status. I know he's been working back, but I don't know where he is. But if you're a Phillies fan, you have a reason to be very worried. As a human being that I am, and that Zach Wheeler, I love the guy. He is a great pitcher. I send out every bit of prayer that I have to him. These guys know the same way as we care about everybody who's in the league. So that comes directly from the Sports Insanity Network, as none of us here like to see anybody go down to injury.
Nola is scheduled to pitch this morning against the Nationals.
Okay, so he is back up. I knew I was reading that he was on his way back, but I didn't realize he was that close.
Yeah, he's pitching against the Nationals. That's your Roku game, which amazing job, baseball. But yeah, it's a huge loss. Zach Wheeler, who might have been near the top NL Cy Young going in, but
and he'll still be considered up there. I mean, he has had one heck of a season.
It's got to be him or Skeens, and I don't really know if there's a guy coming down the backside.
I mean, right now it's him and Skeens. I don't disagree with you there, but we still got a month to go, so we'll see.
All right, so that's a big loss for the Phillies, who lead the NL East currently. All right, Old Ops guy, you had the idea for today, so I'm going to let you bring it in.
You got it. So, as most of you know, we're Mets. Some of us are Mets fans here. I got the hat in front of the face because I'm a little disgruntled. And we got a big representation of the Yankees here in Dan. And what I want to do, what I suggested we do is take both teams, put them side by side, each position, just the starting lineup and the ace pitcher. And we're going to discuss who's better and who's not. And what, and at the end, we're going to discuss who has the better chance to make the playoffs, considering both teams are in the worst slump of the season. So we're going to start out at first base. And Dan, you're going to, because everybody switches there, I'm going to assume Bellinger is going to be considered your first baseman.
I mean, Goldsmith's injured. Um, Ben Rice. We haven't seen a lot of Belly in the at first base enough to consider him for sure.
Okay, so is Ben Rice right now the starter at first?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll
which
do
obviously could change if um Austin Wells continues to be terrible and we need to yank him out of the lineup. Um, yeah.
okay, so we have Ben Rice and you have Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso having a stellar year. I mean, there is no two ways about it. Just became the all-time Mets home run leader by passing Darryl Strawberry just about a week ago now. And he's still having probably the best season of his career. Dan, we put it back to you. Ben Rice, what's he been doing?
Well, the past week he's been driving runs like crazy, I'll tell you that much. Last night he has 7 RBI against the St. Louis Cardinals. He's been raking all week. He has, and of course, he's a streaky player, just like Pete Alonso. He's a streaky player. You're gonna get big time production out of him, and then you're gonna get big time slumps out of him. So, um, but over the past week, he has actually been one of the key hitters to get on base, to drive in runs, and he's looking like the Ben Rice we saw in April that was doing a stellar job. A little bit into May as well. So uh, he he's been doing very well this week. It's no doubt in my mind. If you're talking about comparing him to Pete Alonso, that's a little unfair because we all know Pete Alonso is a better player, a better hitter, and by the way, congrats to him for passing the great Darryl Strawberry on the Mets all-time home run list. And yes, that is important because the Mets don't have a lot to celebrate over their history. They don't. So for anyone complaining about that, doesn't get it.
As Mike Rifkin is also a diehard Mets fan, I'm not going to take all the fun away from him. I'm going to pass it over to the second base to Mike.
Hold on, I do want to say something that Dan did touch on.
Go ahead.
It is a big deal, Christopher Mad Dog Russo. So I don't need to hear you complain about Gary Cohen's call of Alonso breaking the record. Don't be the get off my lawn guy with that crap. You worked in you've worked in radio in New York City. You should know what it means to Met fans that a record has been broken. With all due respect. All right, so you said second base, so that would. I mean, the Mets have used a lot of guys at second base. Primarily, I'll guess it's you want me to go with Jeff McNeil.
Yeah, that's where he's solidified.
Jeff McNeil has had a decent season, I will call it. He's had a couple of hot streaks offensively. But I kind of wish you would go back to the Jeff McNeil that won a batting title, which was spraying the ball over the field. Now it seems he's gone back to that guy who wants to hit homers. I think he strikes out too much. And if I'm gonna be blunt and honest here, I kind of think he's been surpassed a little bit by some of these younger players.
Dan, second base for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, mostly Jazz Chisholm.
Bring back DJ LeMahieu.
Yeah, who's Jazz is often he's been playing a lot this season. So I would say most of the season he's played the position. He's been hurt also. Jazz is good. Jazz has been actually one of the brighter spots. My only big issue with Chisholm is his approach at the plate is horrendous. His approach sucks. And oftentimes when the Yankees are trying to get a rally started, it'd be his at bat that sort of gets in the way. But again, Chisholm's been great. I can't, slide past that. But I just wish that, sometimes he had better approaches at the plate so that he can always be good and not just sometimes.
Moving over to shortstop, we're going to keep it with Mike because Mike's a big Lindor fan, so we're going to let him talk about Lindor. Mike, shortstop for the New York Mets.
Well, just made some history yesterday. 5 years of 20 homers, 20 stolen bases. That's the most ever by a shortstop. And look, I think a lot of people will say this. Francisco Lindor is the engine for the Mets. When he is good, the Mets are going. When he is not going, well, the Mets are really, really bad. He's starting to go again. He finally made an all-star team as a Met, which I don't know. It took so long for that one, but he plays a great defense. And offensively, look, he's starting to come around again, which is massive for the Mets down the stretch. And he has come up with big hit after big hit most of the year.
Dan, starting shortstop for the New York Yankees.
Volpe, he's been hitting the ball better, but his defense still shaky. Like I'm not in love with his defense. And that's a problem because we got Volpe to be our next big time shortstop. And he's not being a big time shortstop. I'm glad that he's finding it hitting wise. He's been certainly over the past month has been stellar at the plate, which of course is what we wanted for him to get going. But then his fielding oftentimes can really cost us some games. And that's frustrating because we're talking about clean baseball. A lot of these teams don't play clean baseball nowadays. The Yankees are at the top of that. Defensively, they were arguably the worst team in baseball in terms of defense. So when you have people like Anthony Volpe who can't throw from short to first when everyone else could, it's problematic.
So I watched a clip from, I guess it was the other day, of watching George Lombard Jr. make some fantastic plays down in the minors. Yeah. Is he the Yankees' now new number one target to be starting shortstop? Probably within 2 years.
Ultimately, it will depend on because you also gotta understand, they're not just gonna give up on Volpe. However, if he starts raking, why not? I say the same thing about Spencer Jones. If he starts raking, why not? I don't want to see that stiff Dominguez keep coming up to the plate and playing the outfield, which he stinks at. Little things.
So now we get to the hot corner, and that's where I come back in. Position that I happen to love, as David Wright was my favorite, is one of my top 5 favorite New York Mets. The Mets have something of a problem, but it's not a bad problem. They have a plethora of third basemen right now up on the team. You have Brett Beatty, Ronnie Mauricio, and you have Mark Vientos, all capable to play third. I think what's going to happen is you're going to have a battle to the end of this season. And I think you're going to end up seeing Ronnie Mauricio end up being your starting third baseman. And here's my reason why. He's played the position not as much as Beatty and Vientos, but he's made less errors in the short time he's been in there and better decision making. His glove is fast and his bat has to come around. I mean, lately he's been getting a lot of hits, which is great. And especially he's a switch hitter, something the Mets drastically need in that lineup. You look at Brett Beatty. Brett Beatty's also been helping out at second in case McNeil goes down, so that's helpful. And then you got Vientos, who has had probably the worst sophomore year ever. And a lot of us, including Mike, believed he was going to be traded at the trade deadline. But he's still there. So something will change for the Mets, but right now they have a really good merry-go-round there of players. Dan, third base for the New York Yankees, the hot corner.
Ryan McMahon, ever since the trade deadline, defensively, I'll take it. But that's defensively. I wanted a big-time hitter at third base. The Yankees didn't get that. Look, we appreciate McMahon, but if I don't see 2024 McMahon through the home stretch of the season, then we're going to get subpar hitting out of there. Defensively, fine. I'll take it. He's been tremendous, and I'm glad that that's the case, but there needs to be a little bit more in the hot corner than just the defense. I want to also see him actually produce some runs, which he is not doing.
Now, if you're considering the last position, really, and on the diamond right now, it's the catching position, something I did for 22 years. And who better to talk about it than Mike Rifkin?
It's true. I hated wearing that gear. Look, Francisco Alvarez has not had a good year. There's a demotion as well that he took. Since he came back from AAA, he's been better offensively and a little bit better defensively. Look, one thing both Mets catchers could do is they could throw out base runners. That is something that in the history of the New York Mets, I don't think has ever happened, where they have two catchers who have an ability to throw. That being said, they need more out of Francisco Alvarez offensively. They need him to get going as well. Hit a big home run the other night. Had a clutch base hit yesterday, so maybe he's starting to turn the corner. But remember when he came up and he hit those 23 homers, I think it was? 23 or
yes,
25.
23 or 24.
Yeah. That was the sign, like, hey, this prospect is real. Really hasn't followed that up. Part of that is injury. Part of that is he's 22 years old or whatever. But they're going to need him in this lineup. They need his power. but more importantly, they just need his presence.
Yeah.
Mike, quick question for you here, as you just did the catching position. Obviously, Francisco Alvarez is not Mike Piazza in
Mhm.
any way. The Mets do have a few catchers down in the minors in Pareda and Hagman. The question becomes, if Alvarez does not show what he shows, would you be in favor of demoting him back down to third, AAA, until next year? And even that means the Mets go into the playoffs without him.
No, I'm actually not in favor of that. I am in favor of him learning at this level.
Okay.
I think right now you need that bat because he could run into one at any point. And I don't think he's earned another demotion personally, so I would keep him here because they're gonna need him down the stretch.
Okay. Fair enough. Now we take our time and we go into the outfield where
Hey,
it's a
wait, whoa,
lot.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Austin Wells. We haven't talked to Austin
Oh
Wells.
shit, I forgot. Oh my God, my bad. Dan, you see how important the Yankees are to me. Uh
Sure.
Austin Wells, catcher for the New York Yankees. I apologize, Dan. That wasn't on purpose.
Yeah, it's fine. I get it. He sucks. No one wants to talk about Austin Wells for a good reason. He was 1 for 5 last night against the Cardinals. Um, look, Wells all season long has really struggled at the plate. And we thought this year was promising in April when he actually had a good month, and that has not been the case. Um, it's gotten to a point with Wells where we're subbing him off for Ben Rice at catcher. Up until this year, I've never seen Ben Rice at catcher. It looks kind of weird. If he can get the job done, if it means getting him off the plate and his bat out of the lineup so that we could have more solid hitting, fine. Too unconventional. I need Wellesley to get going.
And as we get to Wade and make into the greenier side of the ballpark, I happen to like Austin Wells. I've watched him a lot this season, and I think he has a real good opportunity to cement himself behind the plate. I just wanted to say that. Going into the outfield, it's a interesting view of players, whether it's from the Yankees or the Mets. We're going to go to Mike in right field, where we have stolen the Yankees right fielder this season and signed him to a $750 million plus contract. Mike, Juan Soto.
At the end of the day, Juan Soto's numbers are going to be Juan Soto's numbers. 30 home. He's already at 30 homers. The issue with Juan Soto this year has been the runners in scoring position. But I will say this. That is not just a Juan Soto problem. That is a New York Mets problem. I think Soto has had, I wouldn't call it a awesome year by any stretch of the imagination. But I would also sit here and say it hasn't been a bad year. 30 homers. I think part of it is the contract, him wanting to live up to 765 million bucks. And I think the other part is him trying to find out where he fits with this team. Last year with the Yankees, it was easy. We're going to put you in front of Aaron Judge, and you're going to get every fastball known to man because we're not pitching to Aaron Judge. So it's been a little bit of an adjustment period. I think he's played a better right field than people give him credit for. Is it Gold Glove worthy? No, but it hasn't been terrible. But you know what? Look, Juan Soto is going to be in New York Met for a long time. And who knows? One big swing in October could change everything about this year for Juan Soto. But
That is sorry.
His numbers are going to be his numbers.
And that is very true. Danny Boy, right field for the New York Yankees.
Never heard of this guy.
I mean, it depends on the day. It's either Cody Bellinger and Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge's been hurt. He's been DHing since he got back off the injured list. So I guess in this spot you put Belly for right now. Hitting, he's been great, but defensively he's been aight. When it's Judge, we know his defense is great. We know his hitting is great. He hit another home run last night. So yeah, the two that have been there, I'm satisfied defensively. Definitely very happy with them hitting wise. So they're in a good spot.
Going to probably the most important position in the outfield, being the center fielder, as the center fielder is kind of like the general out there. He's the one who says who's getting the ball on a fly. He can call anybody off. For the New York Mets, it was Tyrone Taylor for pretty much a better part of the beginning of the season, but the Mets made a great trade with the Baltimore Orioles for perennial all-star Cedric Mullins. Mullins, as of this year, though, has not offensively really brought it on. I mean, he does have 13 home runs. He's batting now under 244. And doesn't really matter. Yeah, of course, you can say if he doesn't get a hit with runners in scoring position, it hurts because you're not bringing runs in. And that's what it was like for the first 5 or 6 games. After such, Mullins has started to get hits here and there. He'll get a walk. He still can steal a base, which has become important. So it's not necessarily they got him for his bat, it's really for his defense in center field. And that's something we all can attest about after watching him in Baltimore. And even up until he got traded, he is probably one of the top 5 best defenders today in center field, and that's become a very big plus for the New York Mets. Dan, center field for the New York Yankees.
Some days it's Judge, most days it's Trent Grisham, who is like a silent killer. He's an assassin. You know, a lot of he go for whatever reason he goes under the radar when he hits the ball. And defensively too, he's actually not too bad. So yeah, Trent Grisham, and I was banking on him all season to be that guy that everyone's sleeping on, and that so far that's been the case. It's been very, very cool to watch him hit the ball very well. To be consistently good at the plate. Even if he's not necessarily driving runs via the long ball or base hits, the sacrifice flies have been great. Him actually working the count, getting on base, that's been great. So Trent Grisham, who should have been hitting more in last year's playoff, is now truly, truly doing a good job this season for the Yankees.
And you gotta love the porn stash to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Moving over to the left field, a position that was my backup position. You got Brandon Nimmo for the New York Mets. Now, Brandon Nimmo is usually one of the most consistent players from fielding and batting for the New York Mets. He's brought it around a little bit with a hit and a home run here and there over the last few games. But otherwise, he's in one of the worst offensive slumps I have seen out of any Mets player this season. He still has the smile. If he walks, he still runs down. Nothing has changed about that. What has changed about Brandon Nimmo is his approach at the plate. He's swinging early, and you can see it because he's trying to anticipate the pitch at a second or two before it's released. He's watching more pitches in the strike zone than he ever does. He's known as a free swinger because he usually puts the ball in play. I'm not saying if he hits the ball, it's automatically a home run, but Brandon Nimmo has the speed to beat out a ground ball to the shortstop. Brandon Nimmo in the outfield. He's no angel. He's a Met. He can track a ball very well. We've seen him get up against the wall. We've seen him rob balls. Again, it's not his defensive prowess that's a problem. He used to be a center fielder, so he knows when to give way to Cedric Mullins, so there's not a crash like there was almost in last night's game between Randy Arozarena and whatever. I think I was talking to Mike when that happened almost. Brandon Nimmo needs to start turning it around offensively, or the Mets, because he is one of the catalysts that gets that Mets team going. Dan, left field for the New York Yankees.
Mostly Dominguez. Got a lot of issues with him. Hitting wise, yeah, his defense is piss poor. His development certainly hasn't been great. I blame the Yankees for that. But he has to commit. If he doesn't by next year get it together, like he's gonna be out soon. Like, why would you want to bring someone back if he's not any good?
So would you say giving him the nickname when he was down with, funny enough, with the Hudson Valley Renegades, and he got the nickname the Messiah? Was that a mistake? Or
That
did it hurt
The
his ego?
the Martian. Um,
He had a couple down when it was an HVR.
yeah. Look, it was nice at the time, but he hasn't backed it up. And while he's still young into his career, we had expectations. You can't just get rid of expectations just because you're up in the majors. And
I don't disagree with you.
And are still young. Like you still have to show some type of development. Yankees haven't development. They have not developed him right.
Quickly, who's the better outfielder, Jose Altuve or Jason Dominguez?
That's funny.
I mean,
figured they're both the
I
same
mean,
height.
Altuve is horrible. I don't know
that's why they moved him back to
the
second base.
I don't know what the Astros were thinking earlier in the season. And I'm glad that the Astros actually made that adjustment. If it were Aaron Boone, he would not make that adjustment. You know?
Just figure something to make you laugh a little bit and a good thought.
Yeah.
Now we come to the position that is responsible for not allowing runs. And as of lately, the Mets and the Yankees can't seem to find that out. So, Mike, you're going to take the most consistent picture of what you believe for the Mets, and Dan, you'll do the same thing for the Yankees. Okay? So, Mike, pitching for the New York Mets.
I can't believe I'm uttering these words, but the most consistent starter for the New York Mets most of this season has been David Peterson.
All-star.
And yeah, he's the only guy who's gone more than 6 innings multiple times. He did have a blow up in his last start, but he has been the consistent guy in this rotation. Sean Manaea missed all the first half with an injury. Kodai Senga missed time with an injury. Really, since then, he's trying to find his groove again. But when in doubt, it's been David Peterson. When the Mets need a big outing, it's been David Peterson. So he's been the guy in this rotation.
Now, the Yankees were dealt a blow at the beginning of the season by losing Garrett Cole, and Yankee fans were really looking to the 1-2-3 of Cole, Max Fried, and Carlos Rodon. But that hasn't been the case since Garrett Cole went down on injury. Dan, most consistent for the New York Yankees.
Starting pitching wise,
Yes, sir.
it would have been Max Fried if the past month has been a disaster, which it has been. I'm calling it like it is. He's been really bad over the last month. He had another terrible start yesterday. Um, so overall this year, Max Fried, if you're talking the past month, I would say like a Will Warren or a Cam Schlittler, like pitchers that have actually, limited all the runs coming in, like actually has been not giving up runs and striking out hitters. But overall, Max Fried, but that's not fair because Max Fried's been terrible over the past month and a half. I'm just saying like it is. The
Yeah.
Yankee pitching has been a disaster all season. It's been really bad. Relievers, starting pitchers, having a really tough time. Like it's gotten to a point where basically every game is a bullpen game. And these starters are no better than openers, which is not what you want. Like you want to rest your bullpen at times.
So, as a group here, we've gone through the starting diamond and the starting pitcher. We're going to look at each position just by names, and then we're going to pick who is the winner of the position. So we had Ben Rice and Pete Alonso. This is no offense to anybody. I am a Mets fan, but I am an analyst. It goes to Pete Alonso. Dan?
The polar bear.
Mike?
Yeah, this is a slam dunk. It's Pete.
Okay. For second base, we had Jeff McNeil and
Chisholm.
Chisholm. Sorry, I kind of forgot I was playing second for the Yankees.
Chisholm.
Jeff McNeil has not shown as much, so I have to go Jazz Chisholm here. Mike?
Now 3 for 3, Jazz Chisholm.
Rolling over to the shortstop position, we have Francisco Lindor versus Anthony Volpe.
It's not a question. It's Lindor.
Mike?
It's Lindor.
It's Lindor. Third base, we have to pick one, so we're going to put the one who's been there the most right now. We're going to put Ronnie Mauricio, and Ronnie Mauricio goes up against
Ryan McMahon.
Ryan McMahon,
who is a third baseman, and we're not switching off third baseman every two days or so. McMahon has been there. I'm going McMahon. It's just a small. I know it's a small sample size for the season, but I don't like the game that Ronnie Mauricio has been playing. Like it's up and down. At least I know what I'm getting out of McMahon. I have no idea what I'm getting out of Ronnie Mauricio.
Mike.
So in a battle between Ronnie Mauricio and Ryan McMahon, my answer would be Brett Beatty.
Funny.
But no, I'm with Dan because I think Mauricio, we know when he makes contact, he hits the ball hard. they're just, for me, the Mets aren't playing him enough at the moment. McMahon's there every day for the Yankees, so I'm going to go Ryan McMahon.
I loved Ryan McMahon when he was with the Rockies. I still have him on my fantasy team as he's really he's not a power guy. He's a good singles and doubles player. Um, he has way more experience at the position than Mauricio. You and Dan and Mike really hit the key on it. He plays every day where Mauricio doesn't. He plays every 2 or 3. So I agree with the both of them as much as it hurts me because I am a huge Ronnie Mauricio fan. But yes, I agree. It's Ryan McMahon here. Going back behind the plate, we have Austin Wells versus Francisco Alvarez. Dan.
This is a battle between who's worse. I don't know. I don't know. At least Austin Wells has stayed. That's the only reason why I give him the edge. At least he stayed. Yeah.
It's funny the way Dan puts it. At least he stayed, and that is a fair shot because Francisco Alvarez, as Mike put when he reviewed it, was sent down. Alvarez hits the ball hard. The problem is, as Mike pointed out, when he came up, he hit 24, 25 home runs and then has not been the same. It kind of reminds you of Mark Vientos, hit 22 home runs and has not been the same. I don't know who to give it to, as both have, so I'm putting it as a tie. Mike?
I'm actually going to go Alvarez.
Okay.
His throwing ability, I think the offense is starting to come around. And as much as I like Austin Wells, part of his success offensively is he's a big time pull left-handed hitter at Yankee Stadium. I'm gonna go Francisco Alvarez. I just hope he turns it around.
Okay, now we move to right field where it's Aaron Judge versus Juan Soto. Dan.
Judge.
Why?
Well, because Aaron Judge actually is a major run producer. And when there's runners in scoring position, he actually rakes off the ball every single time. Or at least in many of the big time at bats that he gets. Juan Soto, or more like Juan Solo, because he continues to hit solo home runs, doesn't get the job done with runners in scoring position, which stinks because last year across town, he did exactly that. He drove in runs with runners in scoring position, base hits, doubles. He had 3 run home runs. He was actually productive at the plate, getting every big hit imaginable. Um, but this year he has not. I'm saying it, and I'm gonna go with Judge. I trust him more at the plate. I also trust him more with his defense. I know. Yes, he's not as bad as a lot of people make him out to be. Like, I think he's better than what he gets credit for, but it's a no-brainer. I'm going with Aaron Judge here. Judge is the better fielder. He has been the better hitter this season. Um, and again, it's not hate because I love Juan Soto. It's not hate. It's just the reality.
Now we're going to head over to Mike, who's a really good judge of character. So we're going to send it over to Mike, the Pun Master Rifkin.
Yeah, I'm with Dan. I'm going to go Aaron Judge. and I'm just going to word it like this: if Cal Raleigh wasn't having the year he's having, Aaron Judge would be looking at another AL MVP.
Yeah.
Even with his latest stint on the injured list, he Judge is having another awesome year. I still don't know why early in the year teams were pitching to him. I really just don't get it. But I'm going to say this about Juan Soto, and Dan's right. We said it earlier. He hasn't gotten a big hit with runners, or he hasn't hit much with runners in scoring position. I think ultimately for Juan Soto, this is just a bad matchup. Him versus Judge is a bad matchup because Aaron Judge, first of all, he's like 8 feet tall and has those long legs, so he can run and catch everything defensively. Then he has a cannon for an arm. But I think for Soto, look, is Soto having a bad year? No. But he's going up against a guy who's having another MVP like year. And again, if Cal Raleigh wasn't having the year he's having, Aaron Judge is waltzing to the American League MVP.
You know, this was going to be the hardest position for me to even discuss. And this has nothing with hatred for the Yankees and my love for Juan Soto. I look at both these players as the scariest batters in the game next to Raleigh. Raleigh's not a Mets or a Yankee, so I'm not going to talk much more about it. Aaron Judge and Juan Soto remind me of when Barry Bonds would come to the plate towards the end of his career. And it comes to the question is, when do you start walking the both of them? You know, Juan Soto, like I said, is not having an off year, but like Dan said, he is solo. He's only the greater part of his home runs have been solo home runs. And as Dan pointed out, and I looked it up quickly, he hit more 3-run, 2-run home runs than he has for the Yankees than he has this season for the Mets. Does that take away from the fact that he's hit 30 home runs and he's batting 257? No. He's done what he's done every year and he's proving he's worth so far the money. The problem I have with Juan Soto lately is the fact that he's not doing it with runners in scoring position, as both of these guys pointed out.
But again, that's not just a Juan Soto problem. That's a Mets problem.
Yes, I don't disagree with you there. When you take these two players and you put them side by side, I think Aaron Judge edged it out a little bit. And that's to show you how non-biased I can be. And I can take it seriously. Aaron Judge is one of the scariest hitters I've seen play the game in a long time. And Mike put it perfectly. There's not a ball that's going to get past Aaron Judge. He's going to get to it because of those long legs. You can see the sense of fear in Juan Soto as he does not cover ground as good as Aaron Judge. Moving over to center field, you have the 1970 porn star versus the former Baltimore Oriole Cedric Mullins. Mike.
I'm going to go Grisham. He's had some huge hits for the Yankees this year. I know Mullins is still kind of getting his feet wet with the Mets, but Grisham is a Gold Glove caliber player, and offensively, he's given them some big hits. And how can you go against that mustache?
Daniel.
I'm going Grisham. It's not a biased pick here. And here's the thing: I watched plenty of Cedric Mullins, and Mullins, he's good. He's productive when he wants to be, but Grisham has been solid all season long, and there's no taking away from that. Mullins has struggled a little bit at times. Not crazy because he's a good player, so he knows how to get back on track, and I think he will get back on track. But just not I just can't this year with how Grisham is played. I just don't think it's fair.
I look at Trent Grisham and I look at Cedric Mullins, and I see obviously two different players. Cedric Mullins' bat has not been there this year, obviously, and Trent Grisham has come through for the Yankees, like Dan said, on multiple occasions. Here's the difference for me, and this is why I go Mullins. Yes, he's now adjusting and now coming on, but his defense is so much better than Trent Grisham's. I'm not saying 100 times better, but I'm saying at least 50 times better right now. Does Trent Grisham have an absolute future? Yes. Will he be a perennial all-star? Probably. But he's a young guy. His experience is a little lacking, and that's where Cedric Mullins comes in and really owns it a little bit. Going over to the left field, we have the tiny little Martian, not named Marvin, but known as
Shout
Dominguez,
out Marvin the Martian.
and we also not a sponsor, and we also have the great Brendan Nimmo. To me, there is no contest here between Nimmo and Dominguez. Nimmo's better defensive player without a question. Nimmo, as I said, is also in a slump right now, but is starting to come out of it with multiple hits in the last few days, including a home run. I give it to Brendan Nimmo all the way here. Dan?
Left field, I'm going to give it to Brandon Nimmo. His speed, and I know again he struggles to play all season, which is shocking because he's usually better at getting on base. No, Nimmo by far.
Mikhail.
It's Nimmo. Even though he's struggling, he still gets his walks. You made the point about the defense. Dominguez, I think, still has to learn a little bit more in the outfield. So I'll go Nimmo.
And then finally, we come to the pitchers where we both discussed David Peterson for the Mets, and we decided on the Yankees. Dan?
Um, yeah, it's still Max Fried. I know again,
Okay, go ahead.
it's been a rough time for Fried. It's been a rough time for him.
You have David Peterson for the New York Mets, probably one of the most consistent pitchers.
Yeah,
I'll flip it back to you, Dan. It's like one of the most consistent pitchers out there. I thought you were done. Uh,
it's fine.
Definitely deserves an extension or a new contract after this year, as he's proven. Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
And I agree with that. Here's why. Because at least David Pearson, he's not an ace. I'm telling you like it is. But he actually is great at these quality starts, which is what the Mets need. The Mets need someone to go at least six. Because the second you get to that bullpen, uh, especially of recent times, bullpen has been just got awful. Of course, that wasn't the case earlier in the season, but there's no circle of trust right now with the Met pitching. So I at least give David Peterson that much credit. He has done a stellar job at the very least going 6 innings and 3 runs or less at times. You can take it, even if it's like 4 runs. If it keeps the Mets in the game and you just put more pressure on the hitting, that's a great job.
So I thank everybody for listening, but we forgot a position, the designated hitter. I can't believe I forgot it.
Carlos
For the Mets,
stop playing.
and for the Mets, I think Mike would agree. It's been Mark Vientos really for the Mets as the DH, and again, not hitting. To put it bluntly. Few things to talk about before we move on. And we close out for today. The dugout of Millwood is having a very big run this week. We have a lot of cards dropping on our cosigners page and sponsor of the 101 Top Notch Sports Club. Please go check them out. Please go watch the video on the Gold Rush breaks. It explains exactly how Top Notch Sports Club uses it. And I've gotten some amazing autographs from it, and these guys can attest because I use them all in trivia games and they all get the chance to win them free. So we thank Top Notch for pulling stuff for us to have fun with. However, I did keep the Jordan Addison football. Mike, you want to bring us into our close?
Sure do. Thank everybody for listening. You check out the podcast version wherever you get your podcast. Check out the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Follow us on the socials. Twitter, @InsanityReal, and Facebook, The Sports Insanity Network. For Dan, Mark, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you all again next week here on Batter Up, sponsored by the Dugout of Midland here on the Sports Insanity Network. Have a good week, everybody.
Catch you on the flip.